He was just a farm boy with a wrench and a dream, but his vision would put the world on wheels. Before the modern age had a pulse, he gave it horsepower. This is the story of Henry Ford, the man who redefined progress not by following the road, but by building it. The inspirational journey of Henry Ford, from farm boy to industrial titan. Early life and the seeds of ingenuity. Henry Ford was born on July 30, 1863, in a rural farmhouse in Springwells Township, Michigan. Raised as the eldest of 6 children in a modest family of farmers, Ford's upbringing was rooted in hard work, discipline, and a deep respect for practical knowledge. His father, William Ford, an Irish immigrant, hoped his son would follow the agricultural path. But young Henry had a restless mind and an unrelenting fascination with machinery. By age 12, Ford had already dismantled and rebuilt a pocket watch with uncanny precision, a moment that foretold his genius with mechanics. At 15, he constructed a crude steam engine using spare parts, astonishing neighbors and family alike. The farm offered no room for his growing ambition, and so at 16 he made a bold decision. He walked to Detroit and took up work as a machinist. He earned 50 cents a day while immersing himself in the world of tools, gears, and innovation. It was the start of an extraordinary transformation. The Edison moment and the first spark. In the 1890s, Ford was hired as an engineer at the Edison Illuminating Company. It was here that he met Thomas Edison, a pivotal mentor who encouraged Ford's experimental spirit. "Keep at it," Edison famously told him after hearing about his gas-powered engine prototype. Buoyed by Edison's support, Ford built his first car, the quadricycle, in 1896, a 4-wheeled frame powered by a simple gasoline engine. Although clunky and primitive, the quadricycle proved a fundamental truth. Cars were no longer science fiction. They could be real, accessible, and functional. Ford didn't invent the automobile, but he saw its potential to change the world, not just for the wealthy, but for the everyday worker, the farmer, the teacher, and the clerk. Ford Motor Company and the vision of mass mobility. After 2 failed ventures, Ford finally established the Ford Motor Company in 1903. With just $28,000 in capital and 12 investors, including coal baron Alexander Y. Malcolmson, Ford began his audacious campaign to put America on wheels. In 1908, the revolutionary Model T debuted. Rugged, simple, and affordable, it was the first car designed not for luxury but for utility. Selling for $825, the Model T was still out of reach for many, until Ford introduced assembly line production in 1913. This innovation slashed manufacturing time from 12 hours to just 93 minutes. Costs plummeted, and prices followed. Soon, the Model T was selling for $260, allowing the average American to own a car for the first time. Ford had turned the automobile into a vehicle for societal transformation. His motto, "I will build a motor car for the great multitude." Leadership philosophy and workplace revolution. Ford's industrial genius extended beyond machines. He reshaped the labor environment too. In 1914, he introduced the $5 workday, more than double the average wage, and pioneered the 5-day workweek. These moves were met with skepticism, but Ford believed that fair wages would foster loyalty, productivity, and consumer power. Workers should be able to afford the cars they build, he reasoned. And they did. Many became owners of the very machines rolling off the line. Ford's leadership was a paradox, visionary yet stubborn, progressive yet autocratic. He resisted unions and held controversial views on social issues, yet his impact on industrial ethics and workers' rights echoed far beyond the factory floor. Ideology and conflict. Ford harbored strong ideological beliefs. He published writings critical of financial institutions and became infamous for distributing anti-Semitic materials in his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent. These actions tarnished his reputation, though he later publicly renounced them. Despite these complexities, Ford remained committed to economic reform and community development. His efforts toward rural education, housing projects for workers, and technical training were earnest and far-reaching. Family, loss, and succession. In 1888, Henry Ford married Clara Bryant, a steadfast supporter and lifelong partner. Their only son, Edsel Ford, was groomed to take over the company and brought a refined touch to its operations. Edsel encouraged aesthetic design, international expansion, and technological evolution, steering Ford Motor Company into new creative territory. Tragedy struck in 1943 when Edsel died of stomach cancer at just 49. Devastated yet determined, Henry stepped back into leadership in his 80s. But his health was failing, and in 1945 he relinquished control to his grandson, Henry Ford II, marking the 3rd generation of stewardship. Legacy and lasting influence. Henry Ford passed away on April 7, 1947, at age 83. His funeral was attended by thousands, including politicians, businessmen, and the working-class families whose lives he had helped shape. His legacy was not just mechanical, it was philosophical. Ford believed in democratizing access to technology, empowering workers, and building a society fueled by innovation and resilience. He understood that progress wasn't reserved for elites. It should be a movement grounded in accessibility. His legacy continues through Ford Foundation, a philanthropic giant supporting education, human rights, and economic development worldwide. Greenfield Village and the Henry Ford Museum, celebrating American ingenuity and the spirit of invention. Cultural impact. His name remains synonymous with industrial transformation and bold thinking. Closing reflection. More than a man, a mindset. Henry Ford's story is a blueprint for dreamers. He had flaws, yes, but he also had audacity. The audacity to imagine a world unbound by tradition. To challenge the norms of wealth, manufacturing, and mobility. To replace horse-drawn carriages with combustion engines. To make movement the metaphor for growth. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford. Ford lived by this conviction. He bet on possibility and turned failure into fuel. For creators, thinkers, and everyday visionaries, his journey is a reminder. Boldness begins not with certainty, but with belief. From the hum of engines to the heartbeat of industry, Henry Ford didn't just change transportation, he changed how we move through life. His legacy isn't measured in machines, but in momentum. Because when one man dares to dream big, the whole world drives forward.